It's time for the Savvy Realtor Podcast. I'm Walter Storholt alongside Angie Cole, the owner and broker in charge of A. Cole Realty, serving you throughout the Triangle, teaching you about the ins and outs when it comes to buying or selling a home. You can find the team online by going to acolerealty.com. That's A-C-O-L-E realty.com, or by calling 919-578-3128. That's 919-578-3128. And now it's time for one of the top realtors in the Triangle, Angie Cole, and the Savvy Realtor Podcast. Angie, let's spend some time talking about the hidden costs of buying and selling. You know, when preparing to buy a home, it's easy to kind of overlook some of the expenses that go into the process. Sure, we have the obvious things like down payment and, you know, the loan that you're going to get. But there are other costs that you are going to want to make sure you don't overlook as well. So let's spend some time discussing these hidden costs. What about the various inspections that we might encounter during a home purchase?
Yeah, for sure. Depending on the location of the home, that can actually add to the amount of inspections that we would suggest that you get. So first of all, we always highly suggest that our buyers, they get a home inspection, a pest termite, and a radon inspection. Okay. It's up to them to decide if they want to get these services because, of course, they do cost money, right? They're not free, but we always highly advise that you do. And then if you are maybe a little bit further out, you're in the county, more than likely you're on a septic. So a septic inspection will be very important, a well inspection. There's also air quality. You know, maybe there's been some settling, so maybe you want to get a structural engineer out there to have them just do some further research. Maybe, you know, the inspector stated that, you know, I'm a little bit concerned about this HVAC. Maybe we need to get an additional HVAC inspector. So there are a lot of inspections that come along with buying a home.
Yeah. Pool
inspection. I mean, I feel like it's endless as far as the type of inspections
start
we can
getting
get,
a lot
right?
of inspections,
but I would say the most common definitely are home inspection, your pest termite, that's kind of one and the same, and then a radon inspection. But it's important that you do get these done during your due diligence period because that's the time that you as a buyer, you should be doing your investigations. Yeah. And you want to make sure that you're well aware of the condition of the home that you are about to purchase. Also, that's the time that you could potentially negotiate repairs as well. So, that's definitely, a cost that you will incur. I would say on average, most buyers, they pay around $500 to $750 in inspections. But once again, anytime you start adding septic, well, pool, that number can definitely go up. Yeah.
I know just from personal experience, your home inspection is going to be relatively robust from a cost standpoint. It's going to be a big portion of that figure that you threw out just because it covers the entire home. Your pests and your radon tend to be pretty minimal. Those aren't that expensive.
Yeah, about maybe, $75, $95 or so. Yeah. Yep.
Structural a little bit more
Structural
expensive.
Can be a few hundred. Radon maybe $150. That's kind of, minimal.
Basic pool is actually pretty inexpensive, I think, for basic pool inspection.
Yeah, I don't know the exact dollar, but I would say around maybe $150, $200 for that.
Yeah, it probably depends on the level of inspection.
It does.
Can't remember.
And it also, just remember when it comes to like a home inspection, it does depend on the size of the home and also the age, so of course a 10,000 square foot home would be a lot more expensive versus a 1,200 square foot home.
True.
Right?
Very good point.
So that can range as well.
Is there any complications here from, like, let's say you wanted to get all these inspections done?
Sure.
Well, you don't own the house yet.
Yeah.
The other person owns the house, and you're now ordering all these inspections and basically like forcing that homeowner to probably leave or be inconvenienced by all these people coming over. Has there ever been any tension from that standpoint?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
But the contract does read that you need to give the buyer the option and availability to do the inspections, within reason. So
that you can't be stonewalled by a home seller. And, it's in the contract. They have to make it basically convenient for you.
Yes, yes. And if they don't, then the seller is in breach of contract at that point. So they the seller does not have to leave their home, even though we highly advise it. It's just best. Yeah. But, yes, they must make a way for the buyers to come through and do their inspections.
Surveys would be on this list of hidden expenses as well. I know this is different than inspections. This would just be surveys, kind of their own thing. I know our first home we got a survey, but we skipped it on our second home.
Yeah, I would say I'm seeing that about 50-50. Yeah. It's one of those things I tend to find that people more than likely will get a survey if they know they're putting in a fence in the near future, because most of the HOAs, if your neighborhood's governed by HOA, it's a requirement to submit the survey, show exactly, the drawing, where the fence will be placed, the style.
Yep.
So a survey, once again, it depends on the acreage as far as the cost there. That is a few $100s again.
Yeah.
A survey can also be very important too, though, just to make sure there's no type of encroachments or easements, it's called. An encroachment would be like maybe your neighbor has something coming into your yard. You want to be well aware of, your home, your lot.
Yeah.
That is something that is important during due diligence as well, should you decide to get a survey, because if you find that there's encroachments, the seller actually, they need to fix that. We need to be in agreement, because they're not selling a property that's clear as far as the title goes, because there's an encroachment on it.
Interesting.
Sometimes it's no big deal. But yeah, survey's another thing that you might get, and that costs a few $100s.
Yeah. They are useful, though, especially if you've got a lot of trees that are near the property line. You want to know which ones are yours, which ones are on the other side. So
yeah, exactly.
All good things. What about fees? Those, everything in life has fees these days. How much do those start piling up on a closing document?
Yeah, so there's some fees that I can think of. For example, if you're obtaining financing, it's a requirement for the lender to order an appraisal. Okay. If it's a cash deal, it's up to the buyer whether or not they would like to order that. But an appraisal, around $450 or so. You have your title services. On the buy side, the buyer typically is the one in North Carolina that would pick the closing attorney, and then they pay the higher title services. As far as for the attorney, on average, I would say around $1,000 for the attorney. You then will need to get title insurance to protect you. So, those fees can start to add up. I know we're going to go through and talk a lot more in regards to other fees that are part of kind of like closing costs.
Go ahead and go there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, also
it's all kind of wrapped together.
Yeah. You have your closing costs in general. So, there's other things as a buyer, like you have your prorated taxes. You have taxes that you have to make sure that if the tax bill's already been paid for the year, you need to credit back the seller. Also, if you are doing an escrow account, which most buyers do when they're obtaining financing, we typically see. Normally, your lender's going to collect a couple of months of taxes, so some prorations there. Also, homeowner's insurance. They need a buffer, right?
Yeah.
So they'll add, several months in for homeowner's insurance. So that all is kind of included in what's called your escrow account. Maybe HOA dues. Some HOA companies, they have an initial contribution. Some make you go ahead and pay through the year. So that could be in there. Also lender fees, of course, in order for a lender to make an income, they must get paid somewhere, right? So they charge those fees to the buyer. So there might be what's called points. So there's also typical lender fees. On average for closing costs, we say that it's about 3% of the purchase price. But on the other hand, if you're buying $1 million home, it's not going to be $30,000, okay? So we typically say on average, look anywhere from about $5,000 to $7,000 for all of the closing costs and fees together that we just, mentioned and talked about.
Even probably the inspections and into that figure as well, probably.
Inspections, it could be a little bit above and beyond, to be honest with you. It really can vary, but that's where, if you're obtaining financing, your lender comes into place. Your lender should be able to provide to you a good faith estimate, which will cover all of these items. The only unknown items, once again, will be inspections. But with the inspections, we can give you an estimate before we order those for you.
We're talking with Angie Cole of A. Cole Realty here in the Triangle. This is the Savvy Realtor radio show. Thanks for taking some time out to join us today, talking about some of those hidden costs of buying and selling. And by hidden costs, we're not saying like, oh, you've got to read the fine print. We're just trying to bring your attention to the fact that if you're looking at purchase prices of homes, well, you need to factor in a little bit more for some of these other
It's
moving
not just
parts.
a sales price.
Not
There's,
just a sales price.
not just a down payment. You have, other fees associated with buying a home.
All of these things are above board, but they might be hidden from your first impressions of pricing. Then you've got little things, they seem little, but they can pile up as well. General moving costs.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Renting that truck, and if you need to move into storage for a little while.
Yeah. just, and getting movers alone. I know that when we were moving, I had a home, my husband had a home, we sold both, we moved into a new home. It ran a couple $1,000s. To get it professionally done is not cheap, and that didn't even include if you had help with packing up boxes,
I'll give a great tip for movers.
I know you're about to say.
What?
Friends, pizza, and beer?
Oh, well, no. Yeah, that works too. But no, just hire movers for the big things.
Yeah.
do all the little things yourself.
Sure.
And it's actually pretty affordable.
Yeah.
It's well worth the cost because it saves your energy from moving those humongous items.
Yep.
It really save your back and your energy on some of those things.
Yes.
Because just moving all the little stuff and organizing
like
it all.
clothes and stuff too. Just throw them in the back of your car. I like leaving mine just on the hangers. I lay them in the back of my car and I put them back up. But that's if you're local though, right?
Well, but especially if you are moving the same day you close.
Yeah.
That's a stressful day. You're going to be mentally exhausted.
Yes.
Try and take some of that workload off of you.
I agree with you. I agree.
For a long time, I was like, I'm going to move myself. I'm not going to, I'd never pay somebody to do it for me. I'm going to move everything. But I guess maybe with age, too, you add a few years and you're like, okay, I've done that a couple times in my life.
You can do it. You can do it now. Yeah. But that's definitely, costs that we need to be thinking about.
Furniture, you might be needing to fill a bigger space if you're upgrading to a bigger home. Now you've got a lot more furniture to fill out.
Yeah. That's one of those things I say, do it slowly. Goodness, I just saw a time hop on my Facebook that happy anniversary to us. We've been in our home for 4 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Very cool.
actually, as of this morning. But, it's one of those things when you move into your home just, and I was going to say that because my home's still not perfect. I've been there for 4 years. I still do not have draperies in my home, right? Mm-hmm. So don't feel that when you move into your home, you must get it completely, fully staged, perfect as far as all of the furnishings, because it can take some time and some money, too, to do that.
Definitely can. I know that's one thing we overlooked moving into our new home recently was just we put all our furniture from the old house in, and then you're kind of like, oh, it doesn't really work here,
right?
Or it doesn't have the right size or angles. Everything's off from the old house. So, yeah, that was one thing that we ran into. And then you start going furniture shopping, and it becomes exciting going out and looking at new stuff.
Dangerous. Exciting, but dangerous.
A bit dangerous. So you got to be careful there. Last but not least, potential repairs, maybe upgrades that you need to make to the home. Those are kind of obvious, but, you got things that, you need new paint or you need this and that. You got to take into account those costs, too.
Sure. Remember, especially if you're buying a resale home, even though a home's being sold as is, always per the contract, it's typically understood, though, that the sellers will be negotiable and reasonable when it comes to repairs. But I bet you when you present to them the list of inspection items, they are not going to agree to everything 100%. Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't happen that way. So there might be things above and beyond that were on the inspection report that you might want to go ahead and have taken care of immediately. And then, just making the home your own, right? As far as like, all right, we had laminate, we want to add granite. We want to paint, the area because it all is just kind of very vanilla. So those items, they can add up. Once again, a lot of those things, they don't have to be done immediately, but it's something to think about because it will cost you money to do any type of upgrades or repairs.
A lot of the things that we've just talked about are covered in the home buying guide that Angie Cole and her team have put together for you. If you want to get that home buying guide, you can download it on your smartphone. Just text the word contract to the number 555-888. Again, text the word contract to the number 555-888. This guide sort of shows you the A to Z, start to finish process of buying a home and kind of walks you through the different steps and gives you all of these kinds of things to be thinking about when you go through that process. It's nice to have on hand and to start your buying process. So just text the word contract to the number 555-888. This is the Savvy Realtor. We're going to answer some more of your questions coming up on today's program and more. Stay tuned.
Let's shine a little light on some of the Triangle's best areas right here on the Neighborhood Spotlight.
Neighborhood Spotlight on the way here on the Savvy Realtor. Walter Storholt alongside Angie Cole. She's the owner and broker in charge of A. Cole Realty, serving you throughout the Triangle, not only in Raleigh, but all the surrounding communities as well. If you want to learn more about the 29-day home sold guarantee, A. Cole Realty will sell your home in 29 days or less, or they'll sell it for free. Find out all the details by calling Angie at 919-538-6477. That's 919-538-6477. The Neighborhood Spotlight is where we feature a great area here in the Triangle. Tell you all the cool details, what it might be like to live there, or if you're looking to sell in this particular area, what the market looks like. Angie, what's this week's Spotlighted Neighborhood?
So we're headed over to Fuquay. So right off of James Slaughter Road is a neighborhood called Tyler Park. Tyler Park is a fairly newer neighborhood. All the homes have been built in the last 5 to 6 years.
Okay.
So fairly new neighborhood, and they were built by different builders. So we had H.H. Hunt who was building there. We had Savvy Homes, Cavanis and Cates. So different mix of builders, but they all kind of build really similar products.
Okay.
So all the homes in this neighborhood are single family homes. They range anywhere from about 2,200 square foot up to right over 3,600 square feet. Right now, they're selling in the mid 300s up to the kind of upper 300s. Like I mentioned, all single family homes, and we have very low HOAs, which I know is important to a lot of people. The lot sizes are typically about 1/4 of an acre, so not tiny, but not huge.
Yeah.
So lower maintenance, which is wonderful. So once again, neighborhood spotlight is Tyler Park in Fuquay, Varina. We actually just listed a home for sale in that neighborhood at 2008 Temple Hills Way in Fuquay. So wonderful neighborhood. It's really pretty when you're driving through. And the overall, exterior facades of these homes, they're really eye-catching as well.
Yeah. I'd say the lots feel bigger.
They do. They really do.
Just from like zooming through with Google and having been down in that area before, you see only 1/4 acre, but for some reason, I think they're all set off the road a little more, it seems.
All of them are a lot deeper versus wider, so maybe your neighbors are a tad bit closer on the sides, but you have a good-sized backyards and front yards, which I think create that feel of being a little bit larger lots.
Yeah, it doesn't have that postage stamp,
it doesn't.
construction feel to it.
Does not at all.
There's still some spacing there. So, pretty neighborhood. If you want to learn more about this neighborhood, again, reach out to Angie Cole and the A. Cole Realty team. You can go online to acolerealty.com. That's ACOLE Realty.com. Or call or text Angie at 919-538-6477. That's 919-538-6477. More coming up on today's show. This is the Savvy Realtor.
It's time for the mailbag. We want to hear from you.
Dan says, I'm looking to buy a home, condo, apartment, etc. It sounds like Dan has his options open there. For the purposes of renting it out, where are the best places in the area to get investment properties? I'm looking for steady income and return on investment.
Yeah, great question, Dan. I typically advise our investors to go the route of staying in a lower price bracket, right? So definitely in the Raleigh area, staying under a $300,000 price point, just because our average price point right now is around $315,000 to $320,000 in our market. A lot of times a townhome is a good route to go. And I say that just because, once again, they're on the lower end. So they typically tend to rent out a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's always tough if you had this, a large home, a $500,000 home that's 4,000 square foot to find a tenant.
There's not a big market for those kinds of renters, right?
Right, yeah, because of course, then the lease amount would need to, then be higher in order to pay for the mortgage or for just to make sense. Also, trying to be in areas where there's either a lot of like shopping, restaurants, universities. Being close to the schools is smart, but being in more of a high traffic area, typically those type of homes will lease out better because that's where most tenants want to be. They want to be in the mix of things. Typically tenants, they're not trying to be way far out with all of this land. That's just not the typical investment property. So try to stay in a lower price bracket. A lot of times townhomes, like I mentioned, they tend to rent out really well. And then try to be, in the mix of where there's a lot of development, a lot of action, restaurants, shopping, close to the universities. That would be a smart way to go about, investment properties.
You've been listening to the Savvy Realtor podcast. I'm Walter Storholt alongside Angie Cole. She's the owner and broker in charge of A. Cole Realty here in the Triangle. And if you have questions for Angie, we invite you to go online to acolerealty.com. Listen to past podcast episodes on the website, read the blog, and all the great information, including the option to find a home right there on the website. That's acolerealty.com. And you can also call Angie with your questions, 919-578-3128.